I care a lot about Destiny. It's important to me, and I feel like this is a necessary disclaimer before we continue because I usually appreciate and aim for logical analysis of a situation, rational discourse to help explain why something concerning has happened, and perhaps an attempt to figure out how to prevent it from happening again. This is not that video. I should also warn you that I'm not going to stop to explain the recent events in much detail. Bungie has announced the end of content updates for Destiny 2. It seems unlikely that there will be a mainline continuation of the Destiny series greenlit by Sony anytime soon, i.e. Destiny 3. And there has been an influx of information from both outside and inside the studio painting a vivid picture of why things went this wrong. I think it must have been October of 2023 with the first round of layoffs at Bungie that I began to realize how dire the situation at the studio must be. Along with a lot of other talented staff, they decided to let go of Michael Salvatore, the studio's primary composer. Destiny has always done several things really well. But between the bugs, bad balance, cliche story beats, boring and repetitive tasks, lack of communication, and so much more that detract, it's sometimes easy to take those for granted. But I've never seen a bad skybox, or beyond that, even an ugly area. I've never used a weapon that felt sterile or frail, always punchy, impactful, with that little pinch of Bungie gunplay spice. And I've never heard a piece of music that I didn't want to hear again.
I'm picking up an emergency broadcast. Rendezvous coordinates. They're evacuating the planet. We're on our own.
Recently, Jason Schreier, a journalist that has provided in-depth coverage of Bungie and Destiny for practically its entire existence, posted his first YouTube video, and it made me mad. Not because of Jason. He's been a blessing to the community, providing insight no one else has, and he's helped many of us dig through the convoluted and often sparse communications from a studio that I think wanted to more appear to be open than actually be straight with its audience. This video is well done, informative, and you should watch it and support him. It'll be linked in the description. Jason brings up a number of valuable points in his video that not only help answer why we're here now, but help explain some of the circumstance surrounding the events that led up to this point. And it all sounds pretty straightforward. The industry was in a boom post-COVID. The opposite is true now. Bungie was acquired by Sony during a time when companies were encouraged to spend their money instead of hold it. The opposite is true now. It's all so straightforward, it sounds quite futile to argue against it. And maybe if it was anything else besides Destiny, my rational side would see that and I would simply accept it. But I'm going to argue against it anyway, because this is not that video. So Sony purchases Bungie for a massive $3.6 billion, a development studio almost entirely comprised of a single intellectual property. You have essentially bought Destiny for that dollar amount. Not just the IP, mind you, the talent, the teams that make it tick, Bungie's proprietary engine, there's a little bit more to it, but certainly everything that surrounds Destiny. And then Sony decides to nuke that? And Jason informs me in his video this was a spendy time period, and due to low interest rates in the economy at the time, companies were encouraged to invest their wealth rather than hold on to it. And I can wrap my brain around all of that. But at this point in time. For what? I'm not a gaming executive, surprise, and I'm sure there are many decisions made by the corporate metrics survey checklist gaming engine that I, as a consumer and a gamer, wouldn't like, that are, in fact, the best business decision for that company's bottom dollar. Pay to win works, kids like loot boxes, ethics be damned. If what you care about is money, it's not hard to understand why some unsavory practices have become the norm. But I would find this akin to Blizzard deciding after Cataclysm, or maybe post BFA and Shadowlands. That was a bit further on in the game's history. You know what? People just aren't liking it. People just don't want to play World of Warcraft anymore. Subscriber counts are going down. We're running in the red. Might as well just call it quits. Or if Square Enix decided when they first tried to release Final Fantasy XIV, quite ambitious to rebuild it, they could have so easily said, well, you know, people just don't like it. It's expensive, better just cut our losses and get out. People will no doubt argue that those games are larger than Destiny, and sure, but then how big do you need to be to survive? Because it would seem to me like there are plenty of smaller than Destiny live service titles that make their publishers and developers and everybody money, and nobody dreams of shutting them down. The logic just doesn't add up in my head. But I will add my own take that I feel quite confident in. If Sony really can't make any money off Destiny, if the truth is, and I acknowledge that this could be true, that even a game with a solid foundation and this much history and thousands of highly entrenched players chomping at the bit to spend on expansions and dungeon keys and silver, even if that is not worth the risk, that is a harrowing sign of our times. As it is, over the past 2 to 5 years, I've gotten the majority of my hours and enjoyment from gaming through much smaller titles. Not necessarily smaller in content, but certainly smaller in scale. Even in just recent months, with games like Subnautica 2, Slay the Spire 2, and if grand adventure with pretty graphics has become too much to sustain, I don't know how AAA studios persist as they are now at all. I don't know how they develop an audience large enough to constitute it being worth development. I've never been staunchly against AAA, even though I do tend to favor indie studios because I feel like large scope, massive products like Destiny deserve to exist. Things far beyond the ability of just a few people. But if that ceases to be possible, how does Sony continue? Is it with Uncharted? With Spider-Man? I know many of the games in those series are quite successful and beloved, but they are genuinely safer and more monetarily feasible than Destiny, even with the continued sales from being live service? Or are those games on a timer too? There's a reason why WoW, a game made in 2004, still has the immense following it does, and why Final Fantasy XIV does, and why almost nothing made in the last decade has any staying power at all. That's not absolute, and there are very occasionally exceptions, but generally, you either grew up playing RuneScape, or EverQuest, or WoW, or you don't care about MMORPGs or MMO-style games. People would say Destiny isn't a true MMO, and there's probably some merit to that, but either way, people stick to what they know. There is an overabundance of games saturating the market, many of them that are good games, like the titles I mentioned earlier. You either have a dedicated player base, or breaking in is nearly impossible. And I'm meant to believe, and perhaps should, for my own sanity, when the entire industry has been chasing the next live service behemoth, Redfall, Anthem, Sony themselves with Concord, that now, when one of these larger gaming conglomerates have gobbled up a studio that has just such a game, just such an IP, that it just doesn't make sense anymore because the timing isn't right. How on earth is Destiny not that game. I'll repeat myself. I'm not an executive, not an expert, not a journalist, but if abandoning this IP is portrayed to me as wise, if it's meant to be portrayed to me as avoiding gambler's fallacy, if it's meant to be portrayed to me as anything short of pissing into the wind, I don't buy it. You are throwing away the only thing you can make those $3 billion back with, because lightning doesn't strike twice anymore. Not even with Bungie.
But Andy, if Destiny 3 was just guaranteed money, don't you think they'd make it?
Let's address that rational side for a moment, because I think that this question is really easy to answer with another. Even though I think the player's desires are quite different from the big corporation that now owns the IP, one wants fun, the other wants money, we do meet somewhere in the middle, and it's with a question that I've asked myself, that maybe many of you have asked yourselves. Would a Destiny 3 even be worth it? Would it not potentially just make things worse as a degraded and wayward Bungie attempts to make something that, if it fails, it truly is over? I know there are many talented and skilled individuals still there at Bungie, more than capable of bringing forth a Destiny 3 well worth adventuring into, but putting that aside, and I hate to put the good aside, but for the sake of trying to be logical about the situation, I think it's an exercise worth doing. Knowing the decisions leadership at this studio have made, those who will resist any kind of laying off or termination, really considering the past couple of years of Destiny, would it be any good? Because that's likely not going to change. Even if greenlit by Sony, even if the teams themselves are capable of pulling it off, can the company as a whole? And I'm not sure the answer to that. We're experiencing the death of a game I know a lot of us care deeply about during its Star Wars crossover arc. But that is not this video. Sony, this shouldn't even be a question for you. Yes, it is a risk. If Bungie screws it up, even a game with a dedicated player base and thousands of highly entrenched players can fail. Make certain that doesn't happen. As it turns out, if you fall asleep at the wheel for 2 years straight, you're gonna lose all your players. You might need to occasionally slap up some people at Bungie, most especially their leadership, to assure that doesn't happen. Do so, and not only will you make your money back, but have gained some goodwill and favor that you desperately need. It's either that, or sit on the property and let Bungie tinker away at Destiny-adjacent games and marathon until they inevitably leave, or you dissolve them and further cut your losses. And as for me, as for you, as for us, Guardians, I would rather take this thing through the Fortnite and Star Wars crossover era, deeper into the depths of hell. Let's go the way of Magic the Gathering with the SpongeBob SquarePants crossover era. I would rather bury this thing so deep in the mud and milk it so dry that we can all stand up in unison and say, okay, that's enough. We've got enough of Destiny, really, thanks. Or end it organically, the way it should, the way something that's had this much love and effort and passion poured into it, something that's more than a game but a home, deserves. I'll be there June 9th. I hope you are too. It matters. And to all the terminally online dead gamers of the internet that would dance on the grave of the game I love, screw you. I'm more than well aware that the game I care about is all but dead and buried, but if we can make one Sony executive piss his sheets uncertain if he made the correct path towards his golden parachute, we did our best. The time is now.
Let's go! Let's go! I love all of you.
The day may come.
Your fight to win. Every second left.
Let's go! Get off me, shatter dives!
Down. Look at them.
When we will be tested.
Is that enough orbs for you guys? Yeah.
The Vex Mythoclast. It's probably the most difficult weapon to get in the game.
When all we hold dear is threatened.
What is up, guys? It's your boy, Rackis, and today...
teammates going in. Dude, be careful. Oh god, don't super. Boom! That's a 7-10 split, baby!
And then we will see what each of us is truly made of.
But that is what a guardian is. One who shows devotion to the ideas of a better future, bravery against the coming darkness that would smother us all, and sacrifice for others so that we might all stand together, stronger.
You're my favorite. Don't ever forget that.
I'll see you, Starside.